Today we're going to be talking to Tyler Smith on safe buildings and cleaning up the air and keeping people healthy within buildings. And as you can see, Tyler's the general manager, controls specialty products at Johnson Controls. And this is Bob Mcilvaine acting as the host today with Ross Ardell from our company. And Tyler, the first thing I'd like to have you do is kind of give us your background. How long have you been with Johnson Controls? What kind of role have you played there?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me as a part of this discussion, Bob. I joined Johnson Controls when it was York International back in 2005 out of engineering undergrad, and came up through what very quickly became Johnson Controls after the acquisition of York in our field office in Atlanta, Georgia. A couple of different sales roles, and then I moved for the last 10 years into what we call our global products business. And it's the product development, manufacturing, product management side of Johnson Controls. Most recently as the general manager of a business unit called Specialty Products, which exists up under our global controls portfolio, and alongside automation brands such as Metasys and Facility Explorer.
And the scope of the activities for which you have some responsibility, just do we have them listed properly here?
You do. The business that I'm GM of includes three main components. The first is a laboratory and healthcare controls business based in Georgia. The second is a building automation control panel production business based in Reynosa, Mexico. And then the third is a grouping of branded products that are made by other partners for Johnson Controls to our specifications in two primary groups. One is airflow control, such as dampers and airflow measuring. And the second is energy management products, such as variable speed drives and energy meters.
Very good. Before we go on to some of the details on your products, I want to kind of set the stage in that we believe that HVAC and filtration, and of course the automation that you people offer is a big opportunity to reduce COVID. And in fact, we've placed the market potential at a very, very, very high number, but we're confident that the suppliers can meet whatever needs to be done. And one of the first alerts we did, we started writing these daily alerts back around the end of March. And one of the first ones that we did write about in one of our first alerts was an installation of your isolation room purifiers and controls and so forth for a new hospital in Wuhan that was built within just a matter of weeks. So that was a pretty impressive delivery, and certainly shows the potential for companies to step in and do whatever needs to be done. And then one last question on that score, since we are talking about a Chinese installation, would you just give us a little bit of the global reach of Johnson Controls here?
Sure. Definitely a global leader. Johnson Controls is a global leader in our full scope of products, whether it's building automation or critical space control like the hospital in Wuhan. We do actually have our second global headquarters based in Shanghai. I think the good segue for us here, Bob, is there's really two reasons that I'm the one you're talking to today. One is because of the importance of room pressure control and the directional flow of air in a critical space like a hospital when it comes to infection control. And that's a part of the portfolio that I manage based in Georgia. Secondly, though, when COVID hit and Johnson Controls was assessing the market and business opportunity and really responsibility that we have as a global leader in this space, we kicked off several concurrent product development work streams. And I have the fortune of managing the work stream that's dedicated to leveraging our core HVAC equipment controls and services platform to help our customers run healthy buildings. And one of our early opportunities to demonstrate our capabilities there was that hospital in Wuhan. But unfortunately, as the virus spread across the globe, and especially here in North America, we've had several opportunities to leverage our core portfolio to help our customers not only run their buildings safely, but also reopen buildings that may have been closed previously.
And certainly, as we are writing continually, that we believe this is the way to fight COVID is with clean air, with whether it's from mass or filtration of the buildings and HVAC, and of course with the laminar airflow that goes along with it. So let's walk through some of your products and observations that you've put together here. And I'm just going to go scroll through the brochure as you start talking about some of these things.
Absolutely. We group the opportunity to respond and run a healthy building into 4 primary categories. The first being ventilation, the second being filtration, the third being disinfection, and the fourth, isolation. And so if it's okay with you, I'll step down through our approach to partnering with our clients to operate their buildings safely in those primary categories. If we start first with ventilation, this is really where understanding what our customers' pandemic readiness objectives are and what their energy consumption goals are, and finding a good equitable balance between the two. This is really where that comes into play. For us, it's easy to say you need more fresh air in the space, and the best way to get that fresh air is to bring in more outdoor air. But we all know that that's highly nuanced and not necessarily the case. It doesn't necessarily drive the outcome that our customers want or that is right for their operational budgets. So two of the things that we've done here, first is we are about to publish an energy and infection control calculator that we'll use in conjunction with our customers to help them understand the trade-offs between the two and finding that right balance point between investing in infection control and ventilation technologies and making sure that we're balancing that against operational costs. The second thing that we're doing is pulling together a standard set of operating modes for buildings and making it very simple for our clients to switch amongst operating modes based on the outcome that they're looking for. And it all comes back down to the power and the capabilities inherent in our primary building automation system brands, Metasys and Facility Explorer.
Yeah, so I think that what you're basically saying is you have a complete program that will balance the energy efficiency and the safety, and
yeah.
The threat of COVID being what it is. There's a heavy weight that's going to be placed, I think, on the safety aspect of it. And
absolutely,
some of the work we're doing, we did a study for Cardinal Health on single-use garments, and we found out that there was no good way to measure harm and good in one common metric. So we came up with a metric that has been published in the hospital magazines called Quality Enhanced Life Days. But essentially something like that can be can also be used as part of a program like this and give you results that weigh, how many lives you're saving and how many people you're uh, keeping from getting sick, as opposed to, say, the energy consumption in the building and the amount of energy it takes to clean up outdoor air that you're bringing, to humidify outdoor air and so forth that you're
Yes,
bringing in. So
absolutely.
yeah, please continue.
Yeah, just one final point there, and building on that topic, for decades now, the primary driver and one of the primary approval metrics for projects, retrofits, new construction is payback against an investment. And what we're seeing here, and I think it's going to stick, is not backing down completely against the operational savings associated with a retrofit project, let's say, but really placing much more and primary emphasis on the safety of occupants within that space, followed by making sure that we're mindful of the energy consumption necessary to achieve that outcome.
Yeah, the getting back to this balance again here too. One thing, and maybe we'll get into this as you start talking about the amount of outdoor air coming in. But in Shanghai and Beijing and some of these other places where the outdoor air is 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 5 or 10 times the recommended limits set by WHO.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
bringing in a lot more outdoor air has some challenges besides just humidity and temperature, does it not?
Yeah, it most definitely does. And this is a good segue as we shift into the second category that we look at, which is filtration. One important thing that we realize, and we want to make sure our customers and prospective customers realize, is outdoor air does not necessarily equal clean air. It varies regionally, as you just acknowledged. It could vary based on the application, the type of building, and what's immediately outside the building. And so achieving that level of clean air is going to take an understanding of the space, understanding of what's outside the space, and then what can be achieved through filtration. And it's the sum of, or the balance of, outdoor air and properly filtered air that helps our clients achieve the level of clean air that they need to control the spread of infections.
So it makes it a little bit more complicated in that you've got to take into account not only the region you're involved in, but the time of year and what levels of pollution and so forth there may be in the area at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned earlier, Bob, MERV, I believe MERV 16 was the level of filter that you mentioned. But as we get deeper into this filtration subject, and we learn more about how we think, how the science shows that COVID travels within a space, we're finding that MERV 13 and above is actually the sweet spot, as those respiratory droplets that leave a human's mouth or nose through coughing or sneezing or talking, cheering, partner with other things that are floating in the air. They arrive at a size that is filtered by MERV 13 or greater filters. And I'll pause in a second and let you explore that topic some more. But I want to make a point here that there's a lot of discussion out there in the marketplace on HEPA filtration. And I think there's probably some misunderstanding and misinformation on HEPA filtration and where it's applied or should be applied to achieve a customer's infection control objectives. We're finding that in a typical space, that MERV 13 filter, which is typically less expensive, typically can be installed in an existing filter rack in an air handler or in a packaged unit, is going to be the right recommendation for our average client.
So I think what you're saying is that it needs to be tailored to your COVID load, so to speak. If you've got a relatively low percentage of virus in the area, and you're getting 70 or 80% of it with a MERV 13, you've made a low risk already very low, as opposed to um, some high risk area where the HEPA filter may be the best choice. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Such as in a hospital.
Yeah, the one area that we've just started to explore, and we don't need to go much further here than just to say it's something to think through, is that we have to be concerned with what extent we're looking at it initially at mass, at class mass or aerosol generators. You know, you talked about the larger droplets being captured in the MERV 13 filter, but then the question is what happens to them once they're caught. And we've been doing some interviews with University of California at San Diego that's studying droplets and the evaporation of larger droplets into smaller droplets and things. So it probably isn't going to change everything in a big way, but it is pause for thought as to what happens to these droplets if they're not in a particular, not if they're in a if the particular particle is in a droplet, it may not adhere to the filter and may be evaporated. So I think that's an area for us to keep exploring.
Yeah, agreed. And why we always talk about filtration in the larger context of all the infection mitigation recommendations that we have for our clients. It's not just one silver bullet that's gonna kill everything in the air or make the space that much safer. It's a collection of solutions. It's a collection of operating modes tailored to that customer's objectives, tailored to their space and the use case for that space.
And with your more recent acquisition here too, you've even got fume hoods and things which would tend to reduce the amount of particulate that would get out into the building space, and adds to the weapons you have to keep the air clean at relatively low cost. If you can capture that fume before it gets into the general space, obviously it's beneficial.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you brought that up, because we really want to be pushing the narrative. We really are pushing the narrative of clean air in a broader context than just COVID-19 infection mitigation in spaces. That's present. That's incredibly important in society right now, and we've got a responsibility, like I said earlier. But clean air is broader than that, and we do expect for this to really continue to push the importance of clean air with our clients. Fume hoods and ensuring that you've got the right exhaust, both general and hood exhaust in a laboratory, such that laboratory and its technicians are safe from whatever experiments are being conducted within that hood. That has always been important and will continue to be important as we move forward here. And it's just one more weapon that we've got in our arsenal in helping our customers maintain clean spaces.
And then the range of ways you have to keep the air clean go beyond filtration. Tell us about what else that you have available.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Bob, I'd like to hit one more filtration topic that is important, especially in the context of K-12 and reopening schools, and then we can move on to the next next category. We have a brand called ENVIRCO, and ENVIRCO is all about helping with the flow of air in critical spaces, much like the lab business that I manage. one of Enviroco's products is the portable, the brand is IsoClean, ISOCLEAN, but portable HEPA and portable HEPA/UVC units that can be very simply, easily set up within a space to be one more infection mitigation technology in that space. Circulation of clean air across a HEPA filter, circulation of air across a UVC light, all within a mobile unit. So that's not currently reflected in the brochure that I shared with you, but we are actively working on version 2 of that brochure, and we'll be including that as one of our core recommendations to our clients, especially school systems.
Yeah, I think in fact, there's a version that we just wrote about a couple of days ago that is the equivalent, of one of your HEPA filters and a fan filter unit there above each above each chair, and there's a little partition around it, and you've got a that may be a pretty expensive way. Well, I said it's going to cost less than having a home having somebody in a paid home care situation. But what struck me with Enviroco, and we've been writing about Enviroco and fan filter units ever since they switched from ballroom clean rooms, and people like Enviroco started coming out with these fan filter units that were 1,000 CFM modules with the filter and the fan, and we just in being in the clean room industry, to visualize 1,000 of these fans up in a ceiling and having any kind of economy out of it seemed to be impossible. But Enviroco has developed a very, very efficient, cost-effective fan filter units, and we've been writing about some of these in Austria, for instance, that are above the cashiers in various retail applications. So it seems like there's all sorts of opportunities for that technology.
Yes, most definitely. And the fan filter unit solution does exist alongside this portable HEPA unit in the Enviroco portfolio. We're to stay on the K-12 topic for just a second here. We're really focused on K-12 just because of the sense of urgency there, and the number of schools already that have already attempted to open and will be opening over the next month, and making recommendations to those school systems that can help them prepare in advance of opening. And something like a fan filter unit or larger mechanical changes, upgrades to systems, we're just not going to be able to get that done in 3 to 4 weeks. And so we've got to get very creative in what we recommend that can be done now using operational budgets quickly versus what we recommend as part of maybe a larger capital planning process that would take more wholesale changes to the mechanical system to accommodate.
And you're saying that's where these room air purifiers
absolutely
come in. Well, the other advantage on those too, they can be strategically placed so that the direction of airflow is enhanced. Certainly, moving air, pure air into the breathing zone and away from people, as opposed to having it circulating. Some of these partitions that say some of these meat processors are putting in without benefit of thinking about the HVAC, all they do is create turbulence. So I would submit that strategically placed room air purifiers can do a lot in terms of not only purifying air, but controlling the direction of air.
We agree wholeheartedly. Also need to take into account who the primary speaker is going to be, who's going to be opening their mouth and propelling droplets more often. Obviously, that changes as you move from kindergarten up through 12th grade and into higher education. So, simply buying on Amazon or going down to Home Depot and buying a room air purifier and plugging it in a classroom doesn't necessarily address the core opportunity. You've got to be strategic with where it's placed. You've got to partner with someone who understands the science behind infection mitigation and make sure that you're doing right by those occupants by putting a technology like that in the right spot in the room.
Yeah, sounds good.
So if you don't mind, the third category of 4 that we kicked off with is disinfection. Most of the conversation in disinfection is around 2 types of technology: ultraviolet light, and then bipolar ionization, or variants on the bipolar ionization technology. UV light as a means of disinfecting supplier within an air handling unit or a packaged unit has been a core offering of ours for a long, long time. And it's got much more relevance now than it ever has. So not only are we receiving more orders for those types of air moving devices with factory mounted UV lights downstream of a cooling coil, but also working with our clients to perform those retrofits in the field. A unit that is already existing and a client is concerned about disinfection, we have the capability of taking our UV array and modifying a unit in the field to minimize not only the downtime but also the total expense associated with a mitigation upgrade like that.
The question I would have on the UV is, what kind of time is necessary for disinfection or inactivation?
That is go ahead.
No, go ahead.
That's a great question, Bob, and unfortunately I'm not going to be the right person to answer that for us here, and I can check with our team and get back to you. But I think that is a broader subject than just UV. Making sure that if any one of these technologies is applied such that we're giving it a chance to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you can certainly see the UV if it's shining on the on a filter that's collecting, the material, that it's got, hours to kill the virus and disinfect it. Under other circumstances, I would guess the effectiveness is a matter of the amount of time, and of course the intensity and the distance to the UV.
Right.
You also mentioned bipolar ionization. You want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing there?
I would. Yeah, we have a partnership with a manufacturer of bipolar ionization products. We are actively testing, performing additional tests to validate efficacy, and it's got nothing to do with, I would say, one manufacturer's technology or another. I just think that bipolar ionization is, it's an interesting technology to apply here, and that we really need to understand what it is that's actually performing the disinfection. And so we are partnering with our clients for bipolar ionization opportunities, making sure that we understand what their needs are, what their desired outcome is, and that the bipolar ionization technology is being applied properly so that it can achieve that outcome safely. And it's all about balancing room size, room ventilation, and understanding ozone output to make sure that our ozone levels stay below industry established maximums.
That's certainly critical, yes.
If we could go back for a second, Bob, to the UV light subject, just one more comment that I want to make in the disinfection category here is that although the traditional means of disinfecting air in a mechanical system is at the air handler, or what we call a kill tunnel. There's also some other neat technologies out there, one of which we have in our portfolio that uses a traditional 2x4 lighting troffer, and with a simple retrofit can put not only a lighting troffer back in the space that meets the lighting needs of the space, but that also contains an integral fan and UVC array that draws air from one end, passes it through a UVC array that's safely out of view from an occupant in the space, and then discharges it back down into the space. And so that's an important component of a space's infection control scheme. Obviously, we need to make sure that we understand airflow patterns. We need to make sure that we understand occupancy, expected occupancy within the space. But it's one more option that we're offering our clients when we find that the application warrants it.
And it's a way for you to control the direction of air at the same time you're treating it, is it not?
Absolutely.
The way you were describing
Absolutely.
it. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that before, but that seems like a good approach.
It is. This is all about clean air changes when it comes to airflow, and we'll talk here in a second about room pressure control. But as long as we can maintain, an appropriate level of clean air change rates, there's a couple of ways that we can go about that, and this is one that can contribute to that.
Yeah, very interesting.
So the fourth and final category that we're focused on here is isolation, and the business that I manage directly, based in Atlanta. We're a 30-year manufacturer of room pressure monitors and room pressure controllers that had widespread application before COVID in isolation rooms and hospitals and similar facilities. But we're finding that the need to understand pressure differentials between two or more spaces and make sure that we're controlling the flow of air in the appropriate direction is expanding beyond just our traditional healthcare applications. Specifically, there's guidance out there, and I would expect more to come, on what schools need to have in place by way of isolation spaces. And if a student comes to a nurse's office and they determine that they are displaying COVID symptoms, or their background is at high risk for COVID, they need to have a way to isolate them and ensure that the air is flowing out of that space safely. And that's where a room pressure monitor and a room pressure controller come in. We and other manufacturers like us now have a responsibility to adapt that existing technology to spaces like K-12 isolation rooms, to make certain that those students, the nurses, other faculty and staff are safe.
And then also some opportunities for the room air purifiers in the nurse's office along with the flow control. Would there not be that opportunity?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Back to the point that we made earlier, there's no one magic bullet. And we've got to be careful as a society to realize when that's happening, that someone's talking about a magic bullet, because it doesn't exist. And it's only when you take a full stock of the infection mitigation options available to you, work with a partner like Johnson Controls to make recommendations based on your objectives and your application, that, in our opinion, you arrive at a clean and safe space.
And in terms of the room pressurization and the need to have controlled airflow, unless you are monitoring flow and pressure throughout the building, you really don't have a way of determining what the whether the airflow is optimum or not. So I would think all this comes into play and is pretty useful.
It most definitely is. Yeah, at its core, a room pressure monitor is measuring the differential between two spaces, and whether that's positive or negative determines which direction the air is flowing. And in the case of an isolation room, you want dirty or infected air to be flowing out some dedicated exhaust system of a space like that, and not under a door out into a school hallway. So, that brings up the subject of you can't just put a room pressure monitor outside of a door and expect for that objective to be achieved. Probably going to take some measure of mechanical system upgrade as well to ensure that the right exhaust system is in place to keep the space safe.
And certainly Johnson Controls has a lot of weapons in your arsenal, so to speak, to handle all this, do you not?
We do. I think that of course we would say this, but we do believe this seriously, that when you look at the acquisitions that Johnson Controls has made over the years, especially recently, our commitment to pre-COVID, our commitment to our customers to provide the most comprehensive set of products and solutions has become that much more important now that we're helping them make the most important decisions maybe they've ever made as it relates to their buildings and how they're going to operate their buildings. So we're proud, and we do truly rather see that as a responsibility to society. We've got these capabilities, we've got these products, and we've got a need as humans to stay safe and control the spread of this infection. We find ourselves in a privileged position, and we're not taking that lightly.
And then just emphasizing your air conditioning and other capabilities, and relating that to say the presently we've got this huge problem in the South, and a lot of people attribute it in part, you got the summertime, but you've got everybody wanting to be inside an air-conditioned space, and that taxes the ventilation systems, and bringing in outside air is a pretty expensive proposition, is it not, in a humid southern climate this time of year?
It most definitely is. I'm talking to you from a humid home office above a garage in Nashville, Tennessee right now, and I hope that the space is within the 40 to 60% relative humidity range that we recommend for infection control. No, I'm being funny. Yes, most definitely. That's very important, and I'm purposefully beating this K-12 drum again because it's so important. Schools in the South tend to open sooner than schools in other climates, and here in my home county, we are attempting to open on Friday of this week. And so not only do you have students that are coming into a space probably earlier than the school is ready for them to, but you've also got the climate control side of things to be concerned with, and balancing relative humidity, and making sure that you've got the appropriate mix of outdoor air and filtered air. And then, of course, it's a tertiary concern at this point, but operating costs as well are eventually going to come back into all of this. So, yeah, we've got a unique situation down here.
And let's just maybe end with the example that if I'm a school principal having to make these decisions, how do I interface with Johnson Controls to help me?
Yeah, that is a really good place to start bringing this to a close. We've got a johnsoncontrols.com landing page. If you were to go there today, at the very top, you'll see that infection control and clean air is at the top of our homepage. If you follow that link, there is a contact us button on that page that will put you in touch with us, and eventually route a customer or potential customer to their local Johnson Controls office or representative. And I can tell you, because I'm fortunate to help lead the effort, that we are working very, very closely with our local Johnson Controls offices to make sure that they're prepared, they're trained, they're confident, and partnering with our clients to help execute this type of work.
So a big resource is the fact that you've got these thousands of people that are available at the local level. So that obviously should facilitate the interaction and speed up the decision making.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it doesn't just stop in North America. We have a presence in all countries globally, and we've got to remind ourselves that this is not just a U.S. challenge, although unfortunately the numbers are not in our favor versus some other countries these days. But this set of decisions, this pain point, this need is not unique to North America. It is something that our clients and potential clients are thinking about globally. And like I said, we find ourselves in this privileged position and really look forward to demonstrating the power of a partnership with Johnson Controls here.
Tyler, this has been very instructive and helpful to myself, and I'm sure to our listeners. I'd like to thank you for participating. I'm going to shut the record button, and maybe we can talk for a minute afterwards. But thank you very much for the interview.
Yes, thank you, Bob, for the opportunity.